Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Goody and Johnny Mo with the movies. Tonight we're going to be doing episode 57, and 57 is going to be Thor: Love and Thunder.
Ooh.
This episode has been a couple of weeks in the making since the movie came out.
Oh my God, was it a couple weeks ago?
It's already been a couple of weeks. We are really behind the ball, but at least we're getting this one done.
Well, it's kind of like, like a bottle of Heinz, ketchup 57, like
Just
it's very
slow on the
slow
exit.
getting out there.
Well, I'm sure a lot of our viewers would like to smack us on the bottle to make sure we get these out a little bit faster.
Ooh, I'm not gonna touch that analogy any further.
But listen, before that, first of all, it's going to be heavy spoilers.
Heavy spoilers.
But at this point in time, we expect most of you have
Yeah.
probably already seen this movie.
I would hope to think so.
I think 3 weeks out now since its initial release. But we're going to be doing.
I think it's been a month now.
No, it's
Oh no,
3 weeks.
it has been 3 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
3
because
weeks.
it came out when we were in Disney,
The week that we went, the week we got
which
home.
was not a full month ago. Yeah.
But before we do that, guys, we are going to be doing our traditional drink of the evening, and we got something a little bit special.
We have so many
that I'm
drinks.
going to let Johnny Mo start this off.
Okay, we're gonna start this off. I'm gonna go from least interesting to most interesting. So first off, my chaser is a standard Murphy's Irish Stout in a Guinness glass.
Was that in the freezer? Did you put the glass in the freezer?
Glass? No.
Oh, it almost looks like it almost looks a little frosted.
No. You know what? The Murphy's was very cold. 'Cause
Oh, okay.
I feel that. It's
Yeah,
very cold.
it definitely looked like a frosted mug for a second. Okay,
I might have to do that though. I think I have been thusly inspired to frost my Guinness glass.
go frost your mug.
Now, Chris's chaser is a standard Blue Point
This is a
blueberry ale.
This is a Blue Point Blueberry. Yep, this is one of their year-round ales that you can buy, and it is in a special glass. You can see.
Yeah, the glass is pretty cool.
This glass was a gift from Johnny Mo. And we got this when we were in Galaxy's Edge when we went to Disney World a couple weeks ago.
Walt Disney World in Florida, so they know. We didn't go to Disneyland.
That's why I said Disney World.
Did you say Disney
I
World?
said Disney
I don't
World
buy
when we
that.
started.
We're gonna have to go to the
Okay,
video
go
tape
to the
on
tape
that.
on that one. But this is a mug that we got in, who is it? Olga's? Olga's? Olga's?
Olga's?
Olga's?
Olga's.
Olga's
I think it was
Cantina?
Olga's Cantina.
Which was a bit deceiving because you think you're going to go in there and actually sit down and like have a drink, get something to eat.
And like a restaurant. We thought it was
Like a restaurant.
and
Yeah,
not.
no, it's not. It's just plain drinks.
It's
So
really a cantina.
it's really
just for drinks.
just for drinks.
They have some picky food there that is
not
really
even I wouldn't even
picky
call it picky food.
and
I
not
would
even
just
that good. I think
it's
you go
more
there
like
just
a
to drink.
little like you nosh on like a snack.
Yeah, but they had very
Interesting
I think
drinks.
they had very interesting drinks.
Yes.
And I saw this thing and it was like it was a little expensive, but basically it's not because the drink was so expensive. It
No,
was
it's a
because
collector's item.
you when you bought it, you got the glass.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's cool. I'm like, you know what? I want the glass. And it's a whole Endor type glass. With,
Yeah, it's basically it's almost like the Return of the Jedi. You have like a bunch
Yeah.
of Ewoks. You almost got like little like hieroglyphics on here. You have an ATST, TIE fighters, X-wings up here, Star
Death Star.
Destroyers, Death Star. So it's really reminiscent of Return of the Jedi. I thought it was a pretty cool mug when Johnny Mo gave it to me.
Yeah. I was like, well, they all yelled at me. And they said, why would you spend all that money on that glass? And I said, well, it's not for me. It's for Chris. And then they said, oh, that's okay.
See that they allow when you buy for somebody else.
Right,
it's
right,
okay.
exactly. And apparently on the bottom of the glass, it says first edition.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that's pretty cool.
I'm gonna
'Cause
say-
I'm going to see what edition they have when we go there the next time.
I'm going to say this is a collector's.
Because I'll be honest with you, I enjoyed the drink that it came in. I would totally buy it again, and then I would get a glass for me.
The canteen is cool if you want to go and just and have a drink. I wouldn't really necessarily say it's a thing for kids.
It's not for kids.
They do have some drinks for young kids, like some fizzy drinks, but I would not recommend it. If you're an adult, go stop in.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's based off of the bar that.
And most likely the cantina.
Yeah,
That's
and
essentially
most
what it's
likely,
based off.
where Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker going in looking for Han
And then
Solo.
Nihan, yeah.
Yeah.
And
so visually, it's pretty cool. Like, it looks like.
Oh, the ambiance when you walk in, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. But it's really geared more towards adults. The next time I go back, I I probably would maybe go there for a drink. But now that I know you really can't get food there, yeah, no, I don't. I'm not going to make that a priority.
And I'm assuming, because we actually had to make reservations and this and that, I'm
Hmm.
assuming if you just wanted to go to the bar and get a drink, I think they would just let you in.
No, you had to. You would still have to wait.
Oh
There was a wait. There
man,
was a waiting for that. That's why there was a huge line out there just to go in and have a
wow,
drink.
that's a little annoying.
Yeah. But
But
again, I think it's like, depending on maybe time of day, busier than others.
yeah, I think when
But
we go back, maybe we like do it later at night, maybe type of deal. Because
that
I'm sure it's open late.
that you might be able to have a better chance to get in.
Yeah, but we walked out of there. I had a good time, but I thought the drinks were good. I enjoyed the ambiance, and got a
Yeah.
good munk out of it. Now the next thing,
Now this is your thing. The
yeah,
shot, the
the
shot that
shot.
we have poured is
This
something
is the
special.
shot. So usually around August, I always buy a bottle of Blue Label Johnny Walker for my little birthday present for myself, and I still do that every year. But this year, I was looking to buy. In the back of my head, I was looking to buy a bottle of tequila because I have a very special bottle of tequila at home that I got as a wedding present literally 20 years ago. And I'm still drinking it, but it's almost done. It probably has two shots left, if that. So in my head, I was going, married 20 years, it's time to get a new bottle. So as it turns out, me and my wife went out to dinner a couple of weeks back to a place called the Cuban, and like most places, they have like a drink menu. A couple pages, wine, beer, blah, blah, blah. On the back of the menu was their tequila menu. The entire back page was tequila. Like literally, I'm like without exaggeration, I literally think there was 100 choices of tequilas. So I'm like going to Carmen and I'm like, I gotta try tequila. Like, how do you not try tequila in this place? This apparently is like the mecca of tequilas. So I'm looking at the tequila menu, and none of it makes sense, but you can tell like they have it grouped. And I think the further down you go, the lower the group,
Right.
probably the better the tequila. And then I found a tequila in the bottom group that had 5 words in the name. And I'm like, wow, the longer it takes them to describe this tequila, I bet you that's a better one. So I go to the waiter and excuse me. I said, how much is a shot of the Gran Patron Piedra Extra Anejo? And he goes, ooh, that's a good one. He goes, I'm going to have to double check. So he comes back and he says, it's $64 a shot. And I'm like, oh my God, that's more than the Johnny Walker Blue Label. I probably could have got a shot of Johnny Walker Blue Label there for 40. And I'm like, $64 a shot. I said, I refuse to be intimidated by this. I said, you know what? Let's go for it. And to put that price in perspective, my wife was probably going to punch me because we went out to dinner the following week to an Italian restaurant that was having pasta night. And literally, our entire bill from that restaurant the following week was less, including tip, was less than that shot of tequila I had the week before, which is hysterical.
At least it's
So
on a special
anyhow,
occasion.
so anyhow, I get the shot of tequila, and it's really freaking good. So I'm like, you know what? I got to look into
Can find the bottle.
finding a bottle. So I go to a couple weeks, a week or two later. I said, you know what? It's just about August. I'm going to go to the liquor store that I know has a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to see if I can get my bottle of Johnny Walker Blue Label. And I said, let me see if they got what. And lo and behold, they had a bottle of Gran Patron Piedra Extra Anejo. And it comes in a nice display bottle thing. A little story about how they make it. Apparently, the shape of the bottle is based on the stone they use to ground the agave.
Oh, okay.
And I actually think I'm not 100% sure, but I think this thing in the center of the cap here, I think
You
is
think that's like
probably
some of it?
that's like the type of stone that they use. Needless to say, even though the shot at that restaurant was, slightly marked up, significantly marked up, this was a very expensive bottle
Hmm.
of tequila, significantly more expensive than the bottle of Blue Label Johnny Walker that I bought at the same time.
Which most people know that that is a very expensive bottle.
And a very good. But so my goal is, even though with the Johnny Walker Blue, it's I finish that within a month or two usually, or maybe a couple of
Right.
months. But I buy one every year because I finish one every year.
Right.
This I plan on keeping. My goal is for at least 10 years before I get through the bottle. So I poured ourselves like,
This is the grand opening.
oh yeah, it's never been. If I just opened it, this is like a 2/3 shot because I want to savor it. I want to taste. I want to get the taste a little better.
Okay.
And it's got all sorts of funny hints of flavors and vanilla in there. And so this is cheers to
Episode
episode
57.
57, and a
It's a
very
Thor.
special drink. And we have our chasers. Okay.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks so much for watching and listening.
I only drank half. I tell you, that's really smooth.
That's very smooth.
It
I
has
did not expect that.
like it has no tequila. Very much. What do you call it? Has like an after
Like a little bite to it.
bite to it, an
Yeah.
aftertaste. Like it almost sometimes it could be like almost like a little nauseous,
Almost like ketchup.
urgent. Yeah.
You know? Not bad at all. Very good.
I will never pay $65, $64 a shot.
No, now you go home and have your own.
Exactly. When if something's good, you go home and have your own. Ooh,
Right.
I need my chaser. I don't even need my chaser. It's
Cheers
that
again.
good. Cheers.
All right, now let's get to the movie.
Yeah, what are we seeing? Oh,
So,
but
Thor Love.
first, little shirt action pulled out of retirement. So I have an enormous amount of t-shirts that I've gotten over the years, over the decades. I don't like throwing my t-shirts out. There's only a certain number of t-shirts that can fit in my drawer, and at some point I got to make room, and I go through all my t-shirts, and the ones that I'm just really not going to wear that often get retired into my basement into
Just say you do a rotation.
no, I don't do a rotation. They're retired forever. But they're down there. I don't really go down and use them. But on occasion, something gets pulled out of retirement for a special occasion. And I actually had this really cool Jack Kirby 60 or 60s Thor shirt that was retired. And I said, oh, I'm pretty sure I got a Thor shirt in my basement. I said, I'm going to need it for the movie. I had two Thor shirts. One was a modern Thor. This was an old school Thor. And I believe the background is a page from a Thor comic where he's fighting the Destroyer, who was the
Villain in the first movie.
adversary in the very first Thor movie. But I was very excited to get this shirt. And this is why you don't get rid of your old shirts, because you never know when you're going to need to pull one out of retirement for a good reason. This just validated the existence of the dozens, if not hundreds, of shirts in my basement.
That you have accumulated. So,
Thor,
Love
Love
and
and Thunder. This came out in the first week of July. Second
second.
week of July? The beginning of the second week of July? Yeah, we were actually in Disney when this came out, and there was a big discussion with the grandkids that were really curious if me and Chris were going to forego a couple of hours at a
At the
park
park and go watch
to
it.
go see Thor, which was playing
It was playing in
in
the theater there at Disney Springs.
Disney Springs on like the Thursday night, because we usually go see him on a Thursday
Yep.
opening
We go
Thursday night.
Preview night.
And it was a unanimous no. Like, no, we're at Disney, we're going to parks. So I believe as soon as we got back, didn't we see
We
it?
saw it that weekend.
We saw it that weekend.
Yeah.
We only saw it once, right?
I've only seen it one time.
Yeah. And I think from a preview standpoint, what was your thoughts on the previews for this movie?
I mean, again, Taika Waititi directed this movie again. He directed Thor Ragnarok, which, in my opinion, was the best Thor movie out of the three.
And he's the guy who plays, he's also in the
plays.
movie,
Yeah, he plays.
the rock guy. I forget his name.
Oh God, why can't I remember? All right, well, that's not relevant right
We'll
now.
call him Rock Guy.
But he plays that role. He directed this movie. Also directed Love and Thunder. Now, I still think, even after seeing everything, that I think Thor Ragnarok is still the best Thor movie
It's to
out
me,
of the
it's
four.
definitely the most enjoyable. It's just packed with enjoyment.
Yeah. But I could definitely still see a lot of the like that shtick that Taika Waititi had in the third film, and kind of was carrying some of that over into this film. I was really looking forward to seeing Natalie Portman as
Yeah,
Lady Thor. I thought that was well, I think she plays Mighty Thor in this. I think they call her
is that what they
Mighty.
call her,
I think they
Mighty
call her
Thor?
Mighty Thor, not Lady Thor,
Okay.
in this movie. I just kind of wanted to see like what happened, like because in Endgame he leaves with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I don't even think Jane Foster is in Ragnarok.
Jane Foster, the only time we see her is
First and second Thor.
first and second Thor movie.
Yeah.
Really liked Natalie Portman's performance in the first film. Second film was just really, the Dark World was just really sloppy. In my
Yeah,
opinion, the story was very
it was
sloppy.
very forgettable. I've
Right.
only seen it once, I think, and I really haven't been motivated to see it again.
And Thor: The Dark World, I think, was in 2013. So if you think about that, we haven't seen Natalie Portman in like 9 years in a
Yeah.
Marvel film.
Yeah, and
She's
that's even
mentioned.
a joke in the movie. How
It
long has
is.
it been?
She's well. It's funny because she's mentioned multiple times in other
In
Marvel films,
yes,
and
yeah.
especially the Avenger films. But
And
we don't see
I
her.
wonder why that is. Was that because Natalie Portman said, "Screw you, I'm done with these Marvel movies,"
I don't know. Like, it
or
could have been just a
and
creative choice
somehow
that they
they
just
finally
couldn't.
convinced her to come back?
I wouldn't be surprised. Like, if there was like such a, like a an underperformance, or it was underwhelming after the
Maybe she
second
said,
Thor movie, and she was
maybe I
just like,
need to be more of a centerpiece, and make me a female Thor, and I'll make them, and I'll come
I don't.
back."
I see. I don't think that. I think that was all Taika Waititi. I think Taika wanted to do that and like pitch the, because I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure Taika pitched that idea to Natalie Portman. Like, listen, I want you back in this franchise. This is what we're going to do.
So, brief history of empowered Jane Foster from the comic books. I would say the first time you ever see an empowered Jane Foster in the comic books is in the late 60s in Thor number 136, which to me is classic cover, classic storyline. She's not a female Thor, but she is empowered by Odin with godlike powers and abilities and this and that. Basically, to see if she is a worthy companion of Thor, to be a companion of Thor in Asgard as a goddess, not as a human. And she doesn't pass the test. And basically, like, she gets sent back to Earth. They wipe her memory of the whole thing. It's a one issue story arc, and then from that point on, they reintroduce. Actually, they reintroduce Lady Sif into the Thor books, and like that becomes like, even though I think Jane Foster's always been around, Thor and Sif do a lot of things. Then in the late 70s, there was a what if issue. What if Jane Foster found Thor's hammer, or whatever, and
Right.
what if number 10, that book has taken us an enormous jump in value. And the cover is literally Jane Foster in almost an identical copy of Thor's costume,
Right.
swinging the hammer, in a cover homage to Journey into Mystery 83, first appearance of Thor. And that's, actually pretty cool looking cover. And then, but that's a what if alternate universe story. Then I believe within the last 7 years, they actually came out with a new Thor series. I'm pretty sure Thor number one is female Thor.
There was a,
And
like Lady Thor.
yeah, and I'm not sure if it's Jane Foster or not because I didn't read it, but it
Yeah,
probably
I'm pretty
is.
sure that it's her.
But what she looks like in that comic is what she looks like in this movie.
The costumes, I got to say, were really impressive. I really liked what they did with Natalie Portman's costume, and I'll tell you what, I liked the upgrade to
Yeah,
Chris Hemsworth's
she looked
costume.
really good. And
She looked great.
she looked like, I wonder if, I mean, she looked like,
Well, she
almost-
would. Oh, she definitely worked out for the role.
yeah, like they didn't CG her
No.
body, morph her body.
No, I think I think she toned up
yeah,
for
good.
this role. I really liked Chris Hemsworth costume. I liked the colors, the heightened blues that he had, and some of the golds that he
Okay.
had in his costume. I liked that. I thought that made his costume stand out a little bit more, rather than the traditional, like he had that like gray or even like that navy blue, like in the first movie, I think.
And this movie I think this movie is a record for the MCU in the sense that it's the only single character to get his fourth movie.
To this point,
to date.
yes. I mean,
He's the first
solo,
character.
yeah.
He's the first solo
Because
character.
technically, the Avengers had 4 films, but
Right, but
Thor
that was
being the solo character,
yeah.
yes.
He's the first solo character to carry a movie and have his fourth movie.
Yeah.
Because I I think subconsciously we always feel that it's three and out. And with
That's
the
kind of what it's been, that the precedent
yeah,
has been set up that way.
and with Avengers, that was no
Well, you
big
know
deal.
that's going to continue.
We
But
know
like
that
Iron
yeah,
Man had 3.
but yeah, like Avengers really, the last two movies was really the
It was one
was
movie.
one movie. It was one
Right.
story, one movie. It was just so big because it was the culmination of
10
whatever
years.
phase they were in. It was it was the end of that. But yeah, I think it was like I said, there were three Captain America movies,
Yeah, 3 Iron
three
Mans.
Iron Man movies, and you just sit there and say, well, that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna do three and out, and then all of a sudden, here comes Thor: Love and Thunder, and I'm like, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm happy with that. I'd like to think that there's a Thor 5.
Well, plus we saw, like, we had such a great reaction to Ragnarok. I mean, it completely changed the
Yeah,
4 films.
because sometimes you get to that third movie and you're like, all right, they're done.
Right.
They've
And
done
it
as much
was,
as they can.
but it was really refreshing with what they did with it.
Yeah, it was. It
And
actually was.
and
very
so
refreshing.
going into this,
Yeah.
it's like we're expecting the same thing, like another like refreshing tale.
And it was fun. And
It was
good,
fun and
but I
and,
don't think it
and
was
enjoyable.
as
But I thought it
good
was okay.
as-
I just thought it was okay. Like I'm
Yeah.
like it was just I kept thinking to
was
myself
just
as we're
okay.
watching this, I'm like, it's okay.
Like I think,
Taika Waititi has a particular sense of humor that I
Yeah.
feel like he likes to put in the film, which of course he does in this. And it was still funny. It was still good, but it's like, like how many jokes are we fitting in?
yeah. Well,
And Marvel, I feel like,
well,
has fallen into this trap before with how many jokes, how many one-liners can we get in there in a film?
yeah. I think it was. I think there were more one-liners in Thor Ragnarok, but I think they worked
I
better.
think they hit better.
They
Yes.
hit better. This movie didn't have as many jokes, but also the success rate of the jokes, I think,
Weren't as good.
Weren't as good. Not to, nowhere near, in my opinion, to the tragic level of Ant-Man and the Wasp, where they really tried to duplicate what they did with Ant-Man, which worked, and
Right.
nothing.
The second
none
time
of it
around,
worked in Ant. Like
It was almost
every
it was
single
almost
joke
watching like the
in
same.
Ant-Man and the Wasp
It was almost like
fell
the same
flat.
same movie.
I was like, wow.
But with Thor: Love and Thunder, you had I'll tell you right now, the performances I thought were great. Chris Hemsworth again as Thor, fantastic.
Yes,
They continue to play
Natalie
him.
Portman was fantastic.
Natalie Portman was great. This was her best performance since her original since the first Thor
Since
film.
the first Thor.
Really, really like came back strong as anything. Love Christian Bale. I think he's a great actor. I thought he did well as Gore. I think
As Gore.
the Gore the God Butcher. I think I would have liked to have seen him killing more gods rather than just hearing about it.
Yeah, I think
I
you
feel like we
only-
actually didn't
you only see him kill one.
Right, we
And
just
I
see him
even
kill
think,
the original
I'll be
one.
honest with you, I even think the one he kills, you don't even really like. It's almost like implied, like he kills him, but they don't show it. They like, I don't remember him actually.
Didn't they? Didn't he like
killing him,
shove?
or-
Didn't he shove the
oh,
sword
maybe-
through him?
Oh, maybe he did.
I think they he put the sword like through his throat or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. He
So
did.
I think they did show that.
That
But
is
the other
probably-
ones
that
we
is
just
the
hear
only,
about it.
that was the only god that he kills.
Like, give me a little
on
montage.
screen.
Give me like a 20-second
Yes.
montage of
Montage
him
of
just
his exploits.
just him just killing off some gods.
So
I'd be okay with
apparently,
that.
Gore the God Butcher is a relatively recent character in the comics.
Like within the last like 20 years or so.
I think within the last 10.
Okay.
I know he's been pulled from the comics. As it turns out, when I heard that Gore was going to be in this Thor movie, I got very ecstatic because I have one of the highest graded signed copies of Fantastic Four 171, the first appearance of Gore the Super Gorilla. But apparently, it's a different Gore. It's Gore the God Butcher. They're two completely different characters, but I'm hoping there's a little bit of residual confusion that some people really are, still going after the original Gore in the Marvel comics. And
I don't know about that.
Maybe that book will go up in value.
So we had Russell Crowe play Zeus.
Yeah. Okay, so before we get to Zeus and all those guys, I want to talk a little bit about Gore's character
Sure.
because
Like his motives, like
yeah,
okay,
I like Christian Bale.
yeah,
I like his portrayal, but I find that the entire premise of his character, in my opinion, is very flawed because it's like something bad happened to me and I blame it on the gods. And, that should have been the end of it. He should have just died because, everybody curses the gods. But it turns out,
but he didn't blame the gods though, not at first. He was praying.
he's praying to the
He was
gods. But
praying to the
then the
gods the whole
gods, are
time,
like,
and he's like, "I'm doing everything for you that
right.
you have asked of me, and yet
And then he,
I don't hear like you don't answer
right.
my
And
prayers."
he finds the god, which to
Yeah,
me was an amazing coincidence.
that
I
yes,
don't
and
quite
I'm
get
like,
that, how
well,
he just happened
here's a
to
little
be,
plot
yeah,
convenience.
the god just happens to be hanging out in the woods, close by.
This is an actual physical being.
And then as it turns out, like I think the person that they're screwing around with was the former owner of that sword.
Yes,
And then all of a sudden Gore is like there and like, oh, you're my god, like, help me. And the god's actually a real jerk.
yes,
And then
like no
that
sympathy at all.
mutually attracts Gore's hatred of the god is recognized by this unbelievably powerful sword that just happens to be there, and they connect. And now all of a sudden he has the power to kill gods, and he kills gods. And he's decided that because of his experience with this idiotic god, and his daughter has died, that he is now on a mission to kill all gods. And it's like,
Right. It's not just his god
yeah,
that
it's
he
like,
just killed.
I'm going to kill all gods.
He's going to go after all of them.
And it's like, really? Okay, like you almost seem like
It seems like a bit overkill.
it's a bit
It's
overkill.
like, so we're gonna.
It's not like a cosmic
So the
being
one-
who has come to the conclusion that certain things in the universe are awry. He's just some, he's
Well, you're grouping every other god in the same.
yeah, you're making
boat
a
as this
grand
one.
generalization.
Yes.
You're just a regular guy going through grief, and all of a sudden now you have the power to kill gods, and now you're just going to go on a bender and try and kill all these gods, and
Didn't they even say?
and now you actually have the power to do it.
Don't they even like say a number at some point of how many he killed? Didn't
Oh, they may-
Valkyrie
oh,
or
they
like
may- they may
someone
have.
said something about how many he's killed so far? And it was
Yeah.
it was a good number.
And it almost makes it hard to believe that this is even occurring, because apparently this sword has been around for, I don't know, ever.
Ages, yeah.
Ages. And it almost makes it seem like the sword has the agenda, not the person.
Well, the sword almost corrupts the person in a
But-
way, or
but-
like just or brings out.
But I think
They're-
I think the sword is looking for people that will fulfill the sword's need to kill God somehow.
Well, it's like you have to be worthy to carry the sword.
So like, like if this sword has been around for ages,
Right.
it should have been killing gods left and right through, like, all of a sudden it's been around for, I don't know, thousands,
Millennia.
tens of thousands of years, millennia, but and apparently it hasn't been doing much because it's like a legend or a myth or a,
Right. And
and
if that's
now-
the case, you feel like you haven't.
Right.
It hasn't been noticed, or like was it lost to time?
and now all of a sudden Joe Schmo Gore, random inhabitant, he's not Thanos,
Right.
holding the Infinity Gauntlet. He's just a guy, and he gets it. And now, not only is he able to kill all these gods, but he's going around doing it, and he's wiping them all out. And it's like,
And they know he's coming.
okay, like apparently no one in the last couple of millennia have ever been able to do that for some reason.
Right.
Like it.
Well, I
It's
think
got
there's
got a little logical things that
let's say
really
that's plot
don't make
convenience.
sense. Yeah.
To me,
Okay,
I mean, that's
total
I
plot
would think
convenience.
that's total plot convenience.
So now we get to, I don't know where they're hanging out, but which like where all the gods hang out and party. I forget what they call
What is
it.
that? It's not Olympus.
It's not. You know what? It's not Olympus because everybody's there.
Yeah.
But apparently Zeus is like the guy. Zeus is the guy. And the funny thing you got to realize about gods is, and this was always an issue that I had in the comic books, is that you know in the comics, like the Asgardian gods and the Greek gods and the Aztec gods, the only people that believe in these gods are humans. These are earthbound gods that Earth people believe in. It's not like there's another planet somewhere that believes in the Asgardians. So it's like all these gods that people on Earth believe in the comics actually exist. But so how many religions are there on Earth? A couple hundred, a couple thousand. So it's like, but at the end of the day, their sphere is limited to Earth. If you go to another planet somewhere, they're all other different gods. So there was one. There was always.
But
There
I
was,
think that's what this, like where Zeus was with all these gods.
yeah.
That's what that is. Like it's to me. That's how I was interpreting it. My interpretation was that like
You think it's
this
just all
giant
the
moon
Earth
place.
gods
No, I think it's all the gods from like
all over the
over.
place, and there should be a lot there.
Which is why so many of them like were not in human, like
Yeah,
not of
they
human
look. Oh
form.
yeah, they totally
were
look
alien.
different. Yeah.
And to me it's like they were all there, but Zeus was the like top dog ultimate
Yeah,
god.
but like Zeus and Odin are really top gods. But at the end of the day, they're earthbound. Like there was one comic where the Galactus was on trial by the universe, and Odin shows up to speak on his behalf, and everyone's like, "Ooh, Odin!" And I'm like, no. 99.9% of the people here probably have never heard of Odin because they live on a planet on the other side of the galaxy. Like Odin doesn't go around the
Just go
galaxy.
along with the story, will you?
I'm trying. I'm trying. It's just, it's just weird. Like
That's what the writer just wants. Just go along with the story.
these gods are just, they're usually local to a planet.
My interpretation of it though was just the fact that this was like a meeting place where like all gods of all planets
Right.
basically gather, and it seems like they party for lack of a better term. That's kind of
Yeah.
sounds like it's what it looks like.
And I think that whole scene in there had definitely had one of the funniest. I think to me one of the funniest moments that wasn't a spoken joke, but it was a scenario where I think Thor was naked, like in front of
Yeah.
everybody, and all the women surrounding Zeus were like
They faint.
swooning and fainting, and like and it was like I thought that was actually pretty funny.
You know what? I actually, I was just like, really? I don't know. That scene, I was just like,
I mean, it's a little cheesy,
it is
but
extremely.
it was. I think it was funny
Listen, I
in the
think it's
context of like everything that was already going on. It's already a place that's bananas, and everybody's like over the top.
It's almost like what is it, like hedonism? I don't know. I don't know if that's the right word, but like I'm just looking at that and I'm like that's the joke that they're gonna go with. Like they're just gonna do like just make him naked and then everyone's like fainting because he's got probably well hung and he's just a
Yeah.
well looking guy. I mean,
I-
there's always a scene where Chris
thought it
Hemsworth
was-
has his shirt off as
I thought
Thor.
it was pretty funny.
And don't get me wrong, he looks great. And of course, they have the montage of him like losing all the weight, losing fat Thor from Endgame.
Yeah, I
So-
was not a big fan of Fat Thor.
I see.
I thought that was weird.
See, I found that funny.
Okay, Thor getting
I
fat.
thought that was funny
Okay,
because of all of his guilt and everything that was weighing on
Okay.
him. He just let himself go. But to see him like the montage of him getting back in shape, I enjoyed that. Like to me, I was like, all right.
well,
Like, we all knew
I'm,
he was
I'm
gonna shed
glad
the
that he
pounds.
got back in shape pretty fast in the movie and stayed
Yeah.
that way. Now, who played Zeus again?
Russell Crowe.
Yeah, Russell Crowe. I'll be honest with you. I found the Zeus character to be very odd, like with his voice and his mannerisms.
Well, I think he was just very full of himself, and I don't know if he was
Yeah,
told to
but-
play it that way.
Yeah, I know, but it was
Like,
weird.
was that how it's
because-
written?
No, like Zeus is.
But you
like,
don't know that. Like, you don't know how it was written. Like, I don't know if like Taika was like what he was telling him. This is.
Oh
how
well,
I
no,
wanna
no.
do
I mean,
it.
but like in terms of like
Was that his
how
direction?
Zeus is presented in the comic books, like Zeus is no joke.
Well, I think he's probably presented as someone
Zeus
with
is like
very like.
he's like the top. He's like Zeus is like the top, like god, like even like
But I think
like
they-
ancient times. When you talk about like ancient myths on
Yeah,
Earth,
yeah.
like the Greek gods get the most, I think.
But I think he was. It seemed to me like that's how he was also portrayed in this. Like he was a top god.
he was the top god, but he almost he seemed like I found his accent to be annoying. Like he was talking like he was like, I don't know, like a boisterous owner of a Greek pizzeria or a Greek restaurant. He was just, oh yeah. It was actually sometimes it was hard to even figure out what he was saying because it was so
Yeah,
thick.
some of the
It
dialogue,
was
it was
thick,
laid on there. I can agree with that.
and they actually make it seem like they kill him, which I'm like, that's crazy.
Right.
But he didn't die, so I
No,
was like,
like that was,
okay.
but it was shocking that they were even able to
Do it's hurt
do
him
as
as
much as
yeah
they
with
did
his own lightning
with
bolt.
his own weapon.
Yeah, I was like, you're not taking down Zeus with his own weapon.
Right.
Like you would think that, like just like like Thor is in control of his hammer or Mjolnir.
Right.
Like
That like Zeus would have just taken
yeah,
the bolt.
like
But it was
yeah,
interesting how like it was like literally a literal thunderbolt,
yeah,
like a physical object that he's able to grab and hold on to.
yeah,
That was his weapon.
yeah, and I'm okay with that. I thought that was actually kind of cool. Um, I felt and I felt like I felt like they should have introduced more of the Greek pantheon,
Yeah,
but
I would have too.
we didn't really
Like
get that until the end.
like if they would have brought up gore, and I think they do. Like you're waiting. I would have liked to have seen some of those Greek gods or Roman gods start to like pop up and like
Yeah,
object or like
like Ares and Athena, and because I can tell right now the most significant Greek gods that appear in the comic books is Hercules, Zeus, Ares, and Pluto.
okay,
Like they're in a ton of comic books. Like Ares is in Thor books, and Hercules the most, but Pluto was in
okay,
there, and you don't even hear those names. Like, don't even mention
no,
the names. You just basically get Zeus, and then at the very end, not to jump to the end, but at the very end, you get
we
Hercules,
finally do get Hercules.
which
Yeah,
makes me totally, you know, got to be a Thor 5.
oh, I think so. I think like they're
Yeah.
definitely gearing it up for that. And to me, you're seeing, and the guy who plays Hercules is oh, it's gonna kill me that I can't remember the actor, but he plays Roy Kent in Ted Lasso, which
Okay.
I think is a fantastic show. If you have not watched Ted Lasso yet, it's on Apple TV. I highly recommend it. If you're a soccer fan, I should say European soccer fan, European football, you'll love it. It's a great show.
I was gonna say, like when they first showed Hercules at the end, based on what he looked like, I almost thought it was Ares because
Okay.
Ares is the god of war, and whereas Hercules is more like 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 a strong man. The way they had him posing and his facial hair, I was like, wow, they're pulling an Ares, and I'm like, oh no, it is Hercules. Okay, it was a little tough, but
No, that worked out.
yeah, but that's not for nothing. That's like that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna pull in the Greeks, you're pulling in Hercules, and Hercules was a main character for quite a long time in the Marvel comics. He constantly popped up in doors. First appearance was in Journey into Mystery Annual #1 before Journey into Mystery became Thor.
Okay.
That's how that's how
That's how
that's how
far
far
back it
back he
goes.
goes. And he was always showing up with Thor, and he even became a member of the Champions
Okay.
superhero group in the '70s. And I don't think he was and he even was in the Avengers
Oh, really?
for a stint in the '80s,
Okay.
or in late '80s, maybe even or '90s, even probably in the
Well, it seems like
'90s.
we're going to see him in most
Yeah,
likely in the next Thor
so
film.
Hercules has been around.
Or it seems like it's going to be like the gods taking their revenge,
Oh yeah,
or at least
yeah.
Zeus
Well,
taking his
Zeus is
revenge
probably really mad
on Thor.
at
Yeah.
Thor. And not for nothing, you would have thought that the Asgardians would have had more clout at this meeting. Like,
And it
like
seems so.
you would think that they would have been treated with more respect. Like, oh,
Well, especially Valkyrie, because
Thor, Odin's son is here.
but
Let's hear what he has to say.
Valkyrie is now like the assumed leader of the Asgardians. But now, does
Yeah,
she
well,
have any?
well, she's the mayor of New Asgard. I don't.
Well, she's basically the ruler of the Asgardians. Like I think that that was
Yeah,
established at the end of Thor or the end of Endgame, I think. So so now what? Like, what is that all of her ability? Like, she doesn't get any special powers or anything like that.
oh, by taking on
The
the
way that
man,
like
by
Odin
taking on the
does by
mantle.
taking on the mantle, because that was like the whole point of the transfer of power when Odin was going to step down and Thor was going to step into his role and be king.
Yeah, like like there are just certain things where
It's like nothing progressed
there's
there. Like to me,
there's
it seemed like
an
there's a void.
there's an Odin sword. Like you
Well,
should
his staff,
get.
like
Yeah,
his staff that
his
he has, scepter.
he's got a scepter. He had a scepter, but he's also got like a big spear, like a three-pointed spear called Gungnir. And these are like items of godly, kingly power. Like
Right.
when you get the
And no one
throne,
wields that.
you get these things.
Like no one has that. And to me, like that's where I'm like,
Yeah.
and I don't want to say it's confusing. I just want to say that it feels like they missed something. Like they're just kind of like skipping over that
And
and not
and
filling that
and
in.
to be honest with you, it almost seems like she's getting bored of being the mayor. She's finding
Yeah, it seems like there was things that she just
it's
like
like
it's like
she,
mundane stuff that she's
it's
like,
like
I don't want to
it's like
deal with
holding an
this.
office. Like
Yeah,
it's
it
like
is.
paperwork and listening to complaints and
And
things
you
like
feel
that.
like she just doesn't
Yeah.
want to do all that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the vibe I got from that. There's a Marvel graphic novel called Emperor Doom where Doctor Doom finally takes over the Earth, but now he's in charge and he's got to deal with every petition and and finally he's like, oh man, this is really
This is
not
not
what
what I
this is
wanted.
not what I wanted. But I don't know that Valkyrie's at that point yet, but you can tell that she's like, oh my god, I just want to go out and fight something.
Here's a major problem that I had in one of the first battle scenes that both Thor and Lady Thor or Mighty Thor fight Gore the God Butcher. I feel like two Thors should be able to take care of Gore very quickly.
You know what? I don't know about that. Let's think about this because
It almost seems like he has
if
abilities that are extremely convenient. The way that he
yeah,
phases, that's basically what he does, right? He phases
but if
into
Thor
the
the
shadow.
God Butcher, if Gore the God Butcher has the power to just really kill gods left and right, like I think any one on like apparently, I mean, if I
But
was
it's
him,
only
I'd be
because
fighting these gods one on one.
but
I'd take them out one at a time.
it's only because of the sword.
Yeah. So like, okay. So for example, I would say that if Gore the God Butcher showed up at Zeus's palace with like like 1,000 gods there, I would like to think that he wouldn't be able to take them. They would have their
Right.
godly powers and say,
Yes.
and beat him. But two gods, maybe not. I don't know. That sword must be really, really tough.
I just don't. That that's one of the big things that bothered me was the fact that like these two were still seem to be no match, and I'm like, they should be
They
able
should be
to.
really, really tough.
Yeah, the two of them together against him, that should be tough. And the other thing is, we never really see Jane attempt to pick up the hammer. She just becomes worthy.
Yeah. Well, okay. So
And it's not
I don't think
really
it's a matter
fully
of worthy.
explained how she became worthy.
You know what? I don't think she is worthy. But that because technically you should be worthy to
Then
wield
how'd
the
she
wheel.
pick up Mjolnir?
The way I believe the interpretation is that Thor told Mjolnir, because apparently Mjolnir is a living entity in some capacity, that his job was to keep her safe, to protect her.
Oh, you know what? I forgot
And
about
I
that.
think that because Jane Foster's dying of cancer, the only way he could protect her was to reform and let her wield him and become Thor, and then she's cancer free. But how they did all that makes no sense because when she's not Thor, apparently the cancer's back. It doesn't cure anything,
and it's progressing
and
rapidly.
it's progressing rapidly, and it's going to kill her. Which makes no sense because if that's the case, like you would think that well, if it's I would just stay
Just stay Thor.
Thor all the time.
Right.
But apparently that would still kill her.
Well, because she's using
Like
every time she's using
like
the
it
abilities.
doesn't make sense. Like that part doesn't make sense. Like if it's like if she becomes Thor, she's cancer free. But apparently the cancer is still doing stuff behind the scenes in
Right.
human Jane
And
Foster, which well, where is human Jane Foster when she's Thor? Nowhere. She's Thor.
But and this is where
I didn't get that.
this is one of those. Thor: Love and Thunder to me was one of those films where we talk about this all the time, where it just had too many conveniences,
And a little thing and things that didn't make sense.
and
a
it
little
just
bit.
and it pulls you out of the movie for a little bit because now you start to think about it.
like wait a minute, why? Why is
Right.
she still dying? Because you sit there and say, oh, that's the perfect solution. She's a god, and the god is immune to all these diseases and stuff. So just stay that way.
Yeah, that's one of those disappointing areas for me.
But I enjoyed the rationale behind how that's how she became Thor.
And now that
I
you
liked.
reminded me of that, I
Yeah.
fully agree.
And it was actually kind of cool the way the hammer now, since it was shattered, is able to like
Oh, like
break
disassemble
apart
and then come back together, right?
and fly around and like
Right. And
go,
each piece
Yeah,
has like a certain amount
yeah,
of like weight to it or power, and then when they
and then it
rejoin,
could come back and still become a full hammer. So actually, I thought that was actually kind of ingenious.
and then Thor's. I like the relationship that Thor's the oh god, what's the axe called?
Stormbreaker.
Stormbreaker. The way that
Yeah, they were jealous.
they
of
were
each
like
other.
jealous.
That was that.
That Stormbreaker got jealous.
I don't know that any of that makes any sense, but it was fun
Yeah, that's one of those things where I was
because
like,
they're not.
I let it slide.
They're weapons. I don't know that
Right.
they have feelings or consciousness.
It's not. Well, that's what it is. It's like it doesn't have. At least it shouldn't have a
But you know
consciousness.
what though? This whole thing with like a will of its own type deal, like that's what the sword is. The sword has a certain will.
Right.
So maybe it is.
I don't know. Maybe it does. But
Maybe
all
it
I know
does.
is like that was funny. Like that I enjoyed whenever they kept playing that off.
That I think might have been the best working joke.
Yeah, running joke.
Running joke.
Running joke. One of the other running jokes that they had were the two, like ram.
No pun intended. Running. Yeah.
Yeah.
These goats
two
or
like
rams.
yeah
that, are,
that they
that
and they're
were
just
they're screaming.
they're just screaming the whole time.
Every time you see them, they scream. And apparently, somebody did a count somewhere where I think it's 8 times during the movie, and I don't know. I think I remember you saying like, "Oh my God, this is going to be so."
They're
annoying.
going to do that every time.
Yeah,
and they did.
They did.
They did.
And
it
in my
every
head,
time.
I actually was sitting there going like, I actually think that's kind of funny in a way, in an annoying way.
That's what it was. It became annoying. It's not that
Yeah.
like the first couple times it happened. Yeah, I laughed in the theater too. But then when it got to like its fifth and sixth rendition of it, I was like, it's just a little tired.
And I can see in the boardroom where they're like, okay, we got these cool goats, and everyone's gonna be like, no one's gonna care about the goats. Well, how do we make people care about them? I don't know how we make people care about them, but I know how we make people notice them and talk about them.
Make the noise.
Let's just make them these ridiculously loud, screaming freaking animals.
And that's essentially what it was.
Now, the one thing that made no sense to me about Stormbreaker, and I did not like this at all, is that apparently Stormbreaker was the key
Yeah,
to get to eternity.
the whole time.
That makes no sense.
Well, Stormbreaker has the ability. It has what's that? It has a built-in Bifrost.
Yeah, but the point is, Stormbreaker's only been around for a couple of years. Like
Right.
that weapon was forged, I believe, after Thor's hammer got destroyed.
Yes, correct.
So it's only been around. Like, so before this hammer was around, there was no key to eternity. And now all this, like Like this is the only way to get to eternity is through this hammer that just happened to have been created
You know,
3 years ago.
I wonder
Like,
if
are you kidding me?
I
Like
wonder
that
if they
makes no
could have
sense. Then you
used
couldn't
like
even. There was no key, and now all of a sudden, this hammer that Thor built because he needed a hammer somehow that's the key to eternity.
I
That
won-
made no sense.
I wonder if they could have used Heimdall's sword. Like, let's say there was no
Yeah, but who's
Stormbreaker.
got Heimdall's sword now?
I don't know who does.
Heimdall's dead.
Right, but who has the sword? That I don't know.
It's probably floating around, floating
I
around the
liked,
crumbled debris of Asgard.
but speaking of Heimdall, I love the fact that they have his son in the film,
Oh,
and that his son has the sight ability,
yes.
and it's more of like an instinct than him actually doing it at this point, or at least in the beginning of it. But I thought that was kind of cool to introduce Heimdall's son because, I mean, let's be honest, like Heimdall was such a, I thought an interesting
He's a
character.
great character. He was a great
I
character in
really
the
I really
MCU.
liked him, and of course the actor.
And I think he even appears in this movie at the end
Yes, he
because
does.
he's in Valhalla.
Yes, he does.
And
That's
when
right.
Jane
He
Foster,
welcomes Jane Foster. So yeah, spoiler alert. So at the end of the,
Jane
Jane
Foster dies of
Jane
cancer.
dies of cancer. Essentially, she basically uses her power. She stops at one point because Thor basically stops her and brings her to a hospital and realizes what's happening to her
Yeah.
and tells her that she can't do it again. But of course, Jane goes to help Thor because she senses that he needs it and uses up the rest of her
Yeah, at least
ability.
for a worthy cause.
But basically, like, kicks the crap out of Gore.
Yeah,
Like Thor is gonna, it looks like Thor is gonna lose to Gore, and then Jane gets there and like really helps at the very end and stops him,
yeah,
and that gives Thor the upper hand.
right. And then she expires, and then the end credits, the after credit scene is Jane Foster getting to Valhalla, which is actually kind of cool.
No, I feel like
And
that's got to,
Heimdall's there, and
and
I
Heimdall
like
welcomes
that.
her.
And who plays Heimdall? I forget. Is that Idris Elba?
Idris Alba, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
love him,
Now, the
love
one
him.
thing, and once you brought up Heimdall's son, I forgot another one of my things that I found annoying in the movie. So apparently, you know, when they were doing this movie, they were like, we're going to put a lot of Guns N' Roses songs throughout this movie, and this is going to be the Guns N' Roses Marvel movie. Okay, fine, whatever. I mean, they kind of did that. I think with Ragnarok, there was a lot of Zeppelin in there. They
Yeah,
had the immigrant song, but like, I felt like in this movie there was at least three Guns N' Roses songs, if not more. Like it was just like, oh, another Guns N' Roses song. Okay, whatever.
instead of
We
mixing
get
it
it.
up.
And then it was like, okay. Then at some point in one of the kids' rooms, there's a Guns N' Roses poster. So it's like, all right, whatever, product placement. Guns N' Roses probably said, if you're going to use our music, you're going to have to, put a poster in there, whatever. But then, to me, they finally went too far
When?
when Heimdall's son, whose I think name is Astrid, something
Yes.
like that, and then Thor is like, Thor's calling him Astrid, and he's like, I don't go by Astrid anymore. He's like, what do you mean? He goes, that's your name. He goes, no, I want to be called Axel now.
Axel, yes.
And it's like, okay, so now,
The lead singer.
yeah, the character now throughout for the rest of the movie is referred to as Axel, and it's like, really, like that to me.
Maybe he was being named
served-
after Axel Foley.
No, Axel Rose.
No,
I'm
but you don't think it was Axel
no,
Foley?
No, because he even says who,
Yeah.
like he goes, oh, there's a band I really like, and it's just like, you know what? That's when, like, if we want the concept of product placement has gone too far. I mean, in my opinion, it's already gone too far because it's all over the place. But now it's like you've by definition, product placement in movies has gone too far, and now you've gone too far as the norm, and now from that point right there where it's already gone too far, but everybody accepts it, you've now gone too far from there. It's like, give me a break. Like, are you kidding me? You got this stupid kid going, call me Axel. And now everybody's calling him Axel. So we're hearing Guns N' Roses song. You got this kid running around who's being called Axel for no reason.
But you know what?
Just
Listen,
because
so here,
Axl Rose probably said, I want to be a character in the movie. They said, well, you can't be in the movie.
here's a little
We'll have one of the kids decide his name is Axl.
here's a little other piece of that. Okay,
What?
this is a possibility because I know my knowledge of Marvel, especially current Marvel, is like slim to none. And your current knowledge of Marvel, of the new storylines,
Zero.
pretty much. So maybe there is something in the Marvel comics about Heimdall's son, and
I doubt
there's
it.
a reason of him being called Axel.
Oh no, I don't.
So, or a certain nickname. So there
doubt
could be like that could be a
Oh,
little nod to something other than just Guns N' Roses.
there certainly could be, but to me, it's just like, yeah, that's like, it's a Guns N' Roses movie with all sorts of songs and posters and I'm surprised there wasn't. I'm surprised,
We don't get
you
a
know,
guest appearance.
well, like, what the hell is the name of? I'm surprised nobody said, oh, call me Slash. I'm like, come on. I'm like, come on. I'm like, that's just, it to me, it served no
Like
purpose.
in the goat slash.
It drew idiotic attention to itself for no reason. It didn't enhance the story at all.
But this is but this is the funny part because like the way we're critiquing it, it almost makes it sound like we didn't like the film.
No,
But
but
like I
I
think we're just pointing out some of
silly decisions that they made.
the areas that could use some critique as to like we get like most Marvel films are typically lighthearted. Okay, I think we're all in agreement of that. You
Yeah,
know, and like and some are done more so than others.
yeah. There's no Joker movies in the MCU.
No, and I don't know if Disney basically went to Taika Waititi and was like, okay, do the same thing you did with Ragnarok for this film, but give us more jokes. We like the jokes. Give us more. I don't know. I don't
I
know.
I still can't believe I can't remember the name of Waikiki
Taika Waititi?
Taika Waititi.
Hmm.
I'm never gonna get that name right. His character, but
Isn't it? Is it Brock?
something like that. But
I think it's Brock.
I'm not a big fan of his character in any of the movies he's been because I find him a little annoying. But there is one aspect of his character that I really like is when he's telling stories, when he's like narrating stuff.
Which he did multiple times in
Yeah,
this movie.
like
Like
that. That I like when he does
it's
that.
almost basically like he's telling everyone this
He's
story.
like telling. He's like,
Right?
yeah. It's like he does it like very tongue in cheek. He almost makes some things up. He exaggerates these things, and it's told in a funny way. And those aspects of his character I like. But other than that, I I'm not a. I don't think his character
Well,
his
it's
character
just
doesn't
okay.
do much for me. He's just okay. But those when he did that, and he did it very well in this movie.
Yeah.
That I like.
I did like him in Thor Ragnarok, and I liked him in Endgame when he's in the apartment with Fat Thor, and they have to, and like he's talking to who came with him, Hulk and Rocket. I thought that was good, but listen, I think overall the movie was just okay for me. I still think Thor Ragnarok. If I had to rate the four films, Thor Ragnarok, first Thor,
First Thor,
Love and Thunder, and then
Dark World.
Dark World. Dark World is still in my bottom three Marvel films.
Yeah. Now, in this movie, we also had a decent sized cameo from the Guardians of the Galaxy.
They were in there for the first, what, 10 minutes?
Yeah, and that was okay. I thought that was there was actually, I think, some scenes in the trailer that didn't make it to the final film.
And I'm wondering, too, is any of that going to play out in their film? See, it would be, and I don't think this is happening, but it would be interesting if during the journeys that takes place right before Thor: Love and Thunder, if that's the time frame that Guardians 3 is going to be
Yeah.
with Thor in it. But that's not happening. So like I
don't
know
think
that's not. But I'm wondering if Thor is going to somehow either make a cameo or they're going to talk about Thor. I would think.
I
that,
would like to think
I would think
he
James
would.
Gunn is going to make at least. There's going to be at least a one-liner in there about Thor. Something. Someone's going to make something up.
Now, apparently, the new Guardians movie, and I think we expected this with the end of Guardians too, but the new Guardians movie is going to have Adam Warlock, which makes sense. And I believe it was announced, I think maybe at San Diego Comic-Con,
Probably.
that the High Evolutionary
That's like
is
the
going to
villain, the main.
be in it as well,
Yeah.
which makes sense because High Evolutionary and Adam Warlock were very closely related in the comic books. This, a
Okay.
lot of the '70s stuff, went hand in hand. So that's kind of exciting. Another
No, I'm looking forward to that. There's
pulling more. That's the beautiful thing about Marvel. There's like it's going to be a long time before they run out of characters to pull into these movies.
it's gonna be a long before they have to actually fully reboot everything.
Yeah.
But no, I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
that.
no, I just found out that the Wrecking Crew is going to be in She-Hulk. I'm like, I love the Wrecking Crew. Like, I love the Wrecking Crew. Like, boom, they're going to be in the She-Hulk Disney Plus. I'm like, that's great. You
So
know,
funny. So most
there's
people are happy
so
that they
there's
see
so
Daredevil coming in it.
many because it's not just the heroes, it's the villains. There's so many cool
It's
villains
the
and
villains too. I think it's
avatars.
the side characters, like everything that like makes up the hero's world.
And plus
I think
there's
it's
a whole
important.
boatload. I'm sure there's a decent number of characters from the last 20 years that I don't really know about. That like for a perfect example is Gore.
Yeah,
Gore the God Butcher is the main villain in this movie, and he's a character I'd never heard of because I don't read current comic books.
nothing new.
But there's not just the '60s and '70s stuff to pull from. There's also stuff
Right.
from '80s,
80s and
'90s,
90s.
zips,
Yeah.
tens and '20s. There's oh my God, 60 years of Marvel to pull from, and apparently, and not. But granted, the lion's share of the characters that have been pulled into the MCU are from the '60s and the '70s,
Right.
without a doubt. We can thank the House of Stan Lee and Roy Thomas for that.
True. But so what's your final grading?
2.5 at best.
I had a feeling you'd say that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way it's going 3 stars. Because for a lot of these MCU movies, 3 stars is like as good as it's going to get. Because they're not really going after any sort of high art.
Right.
They're not going for any, what do you call it? Creative, movie making.
Yeah.
Technique and angles and cinematics. Like they're making MCU movies, and an MCU movie is, for the most part, a good one at best is 3.5, and once in a blue moon, you might pull a 3.5 star out of there. But for the most part, they're all 2.5s, and sometimes less. And sometimes some of them aren't that good. I'll get that right now. Oh my God, Ant-Man and the Wasp is like a 1.5 star movie. But I think the biggest disappointment for me was the Captain Marvel movie. I was expecting the Captain Marvel to be really good, and I hated that movie. Oh, I hated that movie. I was so disappointed that movie was so stupid.
Well, you have a chance because there's another Marvel's coming out next year.
Yeah, no, but I'm looking forward to it. I think they're going to be like, I think they realize how much backlash there was from getting criticism of that first movie. They're like, all right, let's, we're not gonna pull a DC move and end the series
Right.
which is what DC does. They made a horrible Green Lantern movie and they said, okay, we're never making another Green Lantern movie again. Well, maybe that's not
Not just let's not worrying about fixing it.
that's
Let's
not
just
the
do
right
it again.
decision. The decision is to make a better Green Lantern movie because that's a valuable property.
Right.
But that's DC's mentality. But Marvel is like,
Listen,
all
you
right,
stay off of DC, okay? They're trying to fix things. They're working on it.
yeah,
They're working on it, okay?
when am I going to see Darkseid?
Oh God, another 10 years.
Before I die?
Another 10
Oh
years.
my God! If I
Give that 10 more years. God, I'm just hoping we see Superman again on screen, let alone freaking Darkseid.
oh boy. No, but wait, didn't I hear that Ben Affleck is coming back as Batman?
He's supposed to be in the
Somewhere?
Flash movie
As Batman.
as Batman.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, that's good.
That's good.
No,
We'll
that's
see. We'll see how that works.
wait. But
out.
is the Flash movie with the crazy guy that's no longer the Flash?
Yeah, with Ezra Miller.
They
Yeah.
they finished that. They finished
That
that
movie's
movie.
been done.
Oh, okay. And now
Yeah.
he's like,
This is going to be it. Oh
This
yeah.
is the end
There's
of it.
no way. There's no
Well-
way they're making another film with him as the Flash.
yeah. I mean, I think they recast it. They recast the
I
character.
would hope that they would recast.
Because guess what?
Like you can't not have the Flash. in.
Flash is one of the top 5 DC characters, so you do what you got to do to keep
The
him
only
around.
thing that they have other things they can do. They can make it a multiverse Flash character. They can make it Wally West. You could kill off Barry Allen if you wanted to and bring Wally West in, or say Barry Allen is lost somewhere in the Speed Force and Wally West is going to step in. So they have other opportunities.
Wally West's character is Speedy, right? Isn't that Speedy?
Or it was Kid Flash.
Oh, there was a Kid Flash. There's a whole bunch of them.
Speedy was like Green Arrow's like sidekick.
Oh, yeah, okay, right,
Yeah.
okay, right.
Stop mixing up the characters in the universes. But yeah, guys, I think that's it. Listen, we saw Nope that we are going to try to do a review
I
for,
said I wasn't going to see Nope,
and I
and I
made
saw
you
it,
go.
and he made me go. So we're going to try and do Nope.
And we just watched Prey last night.
Right, which
Predator
non-theatrical
prequel.
release. We watched it on Hulu, and I'll be honest with you, I would be very much inclined to do a review of Prey
Yeah, I think so too.
I enjoyed that. But
Yeah, I think that was.
I won't say any more than that, but I was pleasantly surprised.
I was just
and
going to
it-
say that. Those are the words
and
I
I
would
enjoyed
use.
it.
Pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
So with that, I think we're going to wrap up Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yep.
Um,
What is the next Marvel movie on the horizon?
gosh, is it Black Panther?
Oh, it's gotta be, right?
I think it's Black Panther. Yeah, I
Black
think
Panther with an Aztec Mayan submariner.
I think that's what they're going for.
Okay.
What's the title of it again?
Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda Forever. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Yeah. I'm interested to see how they do that without Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
And that's just that. We'll just see how it goes. But all right.
All right.
Guys, with that, cheers. Thanks so much for watching and listening.
Cheers.
As always,
See you next time at episode 58.
see you next time with the movies.